Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome, everyone. We are truly delighted to welcome you today in this joint webinar organized by EURAXESS Africa and European Research Council, focused on the key topic ERC grants for researchers based on Africa. We are honored to have with us Yanné Salo, Scientific Officer at the ERC Executive Agency, who will share essential insight to ERC funding opportunities, evaluation, and the best practice to help you to prepare a competitive application. We are also pleased to welcome to recently appointed ERC Ambassador, Prince Amaniambo, who will provide a testimonial based on his experience. Don't miss this valuable opportunity to learn more about ERC grants, about the EU excellence-based in funding schemes, and engage directly with experts during the Q&A sessions. So now I will give the floor to my colleague, Yedilfana from Addis Ababa University, as a regional representative for EURAXESS Africa to present EURAXESS Africa service. Yedilfana, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Yeah, can you see it, my slides, Ahmed, and
yes.
rest? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody on board. I also would like to thank the panelists, as well as everyone joining us today for the ERC info session, which is dedicated for African researchers and innovators. Now, in 10 minutes, I would like to explain about EURAXESS Africa services very quickly. My name is Yedilfana Sertarge Makonnen. I'm a regional representative to EURAXESS Africa. I'm based in Ethiopia. I'm also a researcher and associate professor at Addis Ababa University. I'm working along with my colleague, Dr. Ahmed Malal, who is also associate professor at the University of Sousse, Tunisia. He's based in Tunisia. But both of us actually work for the whole continent as much as we can. If you would like to reach us, you can send us an email at africa@euraxess.net or in our individual email accounts. Talk about EURAXESS Africa services, as EURAXESS Africa is part of EURAXESS worldwide. This is an European Union initiative supported by the European Commission, established in 2013, now evolved over the years, and currently we have 9 hubs all over the world. Our main goal is to link researchers worldwide to researchers who are based in Europe, and our interest is to foster scientific collaboration between European and worldwide researchers. EURAXESS is all-in-one networking platform that provides reliable source of information and try to support talented researchers like you who would like to explore and develop careers and would like to make an impactful research in Europe and beyond. At the moment, we promote Horizon Europe programs, including the prestigious Maris Collaborative Actions and European Research Council grants as our focus of today's webinar. We also promote Pillar 2 of the 6th cluster. We'll actually we have planned dedicated webinars for these 6 clusters. We'll keep you in touch. And we, as EURAXESS Africa, we particularly promote Horizon Europe Africa initiative and Mediterranean initiative. So what you have to know is that all services of EURAXESS, including EURAXESS Africa, are free of charge. So we would like you to feel like your own and get benefit of these services. So the EURAXESS network is open to all nationalities, including to African nationalities. It's open to all research fields, disciplines, at all levels of career development. These are the EURAXESS worldwide team. We are distributed all over the globe. We have 9 hubs, as I mentioned before. We have a North America hub. We have Latin America and the Caribbean, Africa, India, Asia, China, Japan, Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. We able to establish the largest researchers hub in the world, with over 140,000 researchers registered in our database, who are regularly informed by 16 dedicated EURAXESS worldwide team. The central management is based in Brussels, and we are almost in all over the world. And if you consider the Africa, EURAXESS Africa, we have more than 16,000 researchers, innovators database. I think this is the largest researchers innovator database in Africa. And EURAXESS Africa is one of the youngest hub of these 9 hubs. Is launched in 2022, but really we are doing a very good job. If you consider a number of events that we organize along with our teams, EURAXESS Worldwide team, we organize over 2,500 physical and online events in different countries in the world. Our main tasks as EURAXESS Africa, myself and my colleague Ahmed, is that to manage and develop the EURAXESS Africa network. We manage the portal, we have a dedicated website. We have social medias, in the main social medias. We have in LinkedIn, in YouTube, in Facebook, and in X. We facilitating connections between researchers and institutions in Africa and Europe. We support the African research innovator. We provide information, we provide advice, provide assistance to African researchers and innovators, supporting career development initiatives. We organize capacity building trainings. In addition to info session, we organize practical session. We navigate through the important portals, the EURAXESS portal, EU tender and funding portal. We also provide grant writing, capacity building, project management trainings in collaboration with the European Commission in Brussels with different units, ERC units, MSA unit, and desk officers for Africa and scientific officers in different units. So we also promoting European research opportunities to Africa, raising awareness of the European research opportunities among African researchers and research institutions. We support, our main role is to support and increase African researchers and institutions' participation in the big Horizon Europe program, both in Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 at the moment. Maybe next year we start Pillar 3 of the Horizon Europe. In particular, you focus on the Africa initiative as we based in Africa. Last but not least, we reinforcing the networking of all African research and innovation actors. We participate in co-organize and organize different events, physical and online events in different thematic areas. So we facilitate the exchange of information and expertise between the 2 continents, Africa and Europe. So this is just the typical skeleton of the Horizon Europe, which is actually a continuity from the Horizon 2020. Most of you know about it. The Horizon Europe starts from 2021 and extends up to 2027 with the largest research funding in the world, with about 100 billion of euros. It's grouped in 3 pillars, as I mentioned. In Pillar 1, we have European Research Council that we are going to talk about today more with the scientific officer and also the awardee of the ERC. This grant has a budget of 16 billion euro for 6 years. It's really a lot of money. So we need to really take part of this initiative, and we'll give you more information from the right people on ERC Council in 2 days, this important webinar. And we'll also, next webinar, we'll announce this shortly. We'll talk about the prestigious Maris Kodakiri actions, these 5 actions: doctoral network, postdoctoral fellowship, staff exchange, co-fund, and the outreach activities in 5 thematic areas. And Pillar 2, we also promote the global challenges in European industrial competitiveness. More than half of the European Horizon Europe projects goes to this pillar. It has 6 clusters, in health, in culture, creativity, and inclusive society, civil security and society, digital industry and space, climate, energy, mobility, food, bioeconomy, natural resource, agriculture, and environment. We'll also organize webinars in each of these clusters to give you more information about this, and collaborate and apply for this important collaborative research. So what I would like to mention here is that 35% of the funding of the Horizon program will target climate objectives. So this is a very important thing to consider while you are proposing your project. So the Pillar 1 is excellent in science. So the sole criteria is excellence. I already mentioned European Research Council. We have 16 billion euro. It's a frontier research by best researchers and their teams. You are free to choose your topic, and any nationality can also apply for it. Already mentioned MSA, we have 5 clusters. I will not go to detail because it's not our today's webinar focus, but we'll organize an event for this prestigious program. When it comes to the European Research Council, again, I will not go to detail because the scientific officer, Dr. Yane, will talk more about it, but just to give you the names ahead: starting grant, consolidated grant, advanced grant, synergy grant. These are the 4 major research European Research Council grants. But for previous awardees of ERC, there is also another scheme which they call a proof of concept note grant. So these are the pillar 2 clusters. These are the budget for clusters. We'll talk this in another webinar. And one thing that I would like to mention here is that the pre-publication of the work program 2025 is just published last week. And we are also expecting the full launching of this work program 2025 in this month. So keep in touch. We'll send you as soon as you get it. But until you get the final version, you can go through this pre-publication document to get some insight about the goals and topics of the work program of the Horizon Europe 2025 goals. So Horizon Europe Pillar 2, the beneficiaries, EU member states or associated countries. So far, we have only Tunisia as the only African country associated to the Horizon Europe. These are the first beneficiary, considered like EU member state, who also contribute financially to this program. The good news is that recently Egypt has concluded negotiation for association to the Horizon Europe. We expect to be signed the agreement by end of this year. And Morocco is also progressing very well in the association. So maybe for next year, we will have 3 African countries associated to the Horizon Europe. The rest countries can be considered or can participate as a partner institute in all of this Horizon Europe program. So how can Africa participate in the Horizon Europe? There are 3 ways to participate. One, there is a funding for individual researchers, individual fellowships, like the MSc Doctoral Network, MSc Postdoctoral Fellowship. And the most important one is that European Research Council, African researchers, talented African researchers can apply to ERC as a researcher. All nationalities should apply for this, but you may need to find the host institute in EU member state or associated countries, or you may be currently located in Europe or in associated countries. That way you can participate in ERC. There is also funding for collaboration research. I mentioned the Pillar 2. You can participate in that kind of project. At least 3 entities in Europe or in associated countries should come together. And if there are European countries, 3 entities from European member states or associated countries. If there is an associated country, at least one of them should be from EU member state. Plus, third countries, African countries can also collaborate in Pillar 2 research. And we are also going to announce the Africa Initiative very recently. The third possible participation from African side that you can directly submit your application through EURAXESS portal. Any projects that are awarded from European Union must pass through the EURAXESS, right? So you can directly apply for PhD, for postdoc, for any other jobs, including professorship positions and tenders as well through the EURAXESS portal. So this way, African researchers, innovators, institutions can participate to harness the Horizon Europe program. If you consider African countries' participation, this shows top 13 African countries in terms of participating into Horizon Europe. That starts from 2021. I think it's for the last 4 years data. So if you consider this data, South Africa and Kenya are really doing very good job. They obtain more than 60 million euros from the Horizon Europe, and other countries that are listed in this figure are also doing very well. And I hope we, as African, we are not the only country, so we need to work hard to increase our participation in Horizon Europe, since we have more 2-3 years to come. So this African participation in MSA, yes, it's very competitive, but it's also very promising. over 2,293 Africa researchers from 45 different African countries participated in Horizon 2020, the previous work program. So it's really quite a large number. If you only consider 2021 and 2022, more than 72 organizations accounting for 91 institutions are participating in Horizon Europe in Mari's collaboratory actions. If you come to the ERC grants, since its inception in 2007, we got 24 ERC grantees from different African countries. So you can see here again, South Africa, we have 6 grantees, Egypt 5 grantees, Morocco 3, Tunisia 3, Cameroon 2, Algeria 2, Burkina Faso and Tanzania 1 each. So, and also in synergy grants from 2023 in South Africa, we got one, is Sarah Fawcett from the University of Cape Town. In total, we got 24 ERC grants for the continent. So I think we need to increase this number. That's why we also organize this very special webinar that focus on ERC information for researchers who are based in Africa. So this is the calendar for 2025, but for latest updates, if any change on the dates, on the opening date and the closing date, I suggest you go to ERC official website and EU funding and tender portal for timeline. I will share my slides so you'll get this information later on. So just to give you the highlight in the picture what EURAXESS Africa have been doing so far. My colleague Ahmed have been in Morocco 3 times in 2023, 2024, 2025, very recently as well. He participated in a very big events in the universities and events organized by European Union delegations. And he has been, and of course, both of us have been in South Africa in 2023, 2024. We have been visited more than 4 institutes. We have, my colleague Ahmed have been in Egypt and attended 2 big events in the last 2 years. Of course, we organized very important events in Ethiopia, in different towns, in Addis Ababa, in Jimma, in Hawassa, and we also plan to visit some places in the upcoming season. I have been in Nigeria a couple of times last year and attended Nigeria EU Innovation Day and meet many researchers and innovators. I have been in Tunisia. Both of us have been in Dakar, Senegal in last year, and also participate this year. We have been in Kigali for multiple of events, and these are our plan for 2025. You may see your country flag here. We plan around 16 missions in different African countries. But you know, we are 2, but the country is 55, and there are 100 or maybe thousands of institutions. There's some limitation to go there, but we organize this kind of online webinars to reach to many research and innovators in Africa. So these are the webinars. I already mentioned this. We plan to host Africa Initiative 3, Mediterranean Initiative 2 very recently. We'll organize a dedicated webinar for MSc doctoral network, postdoctoral fellowship, staff exchange, and we also jointly prepare webinars with our course, with the LIPSI, Enriching Africa, a joint webinar, just to help Africa researchers get information and some practical things. And we promote the 6th cluster of Pillar 2 in different seasons. So a total of 14 webinars for 2025, both in English and French, in collaboration with ERC unit in European Commission, MSA unit, European Union delegations, European Union to the Africa Union, European Union to other African countries. So keep in touch with this. We use these tools. We have our dedicated website, we have a social media, we have flash notes, we send every week, a newsletter every quarter. We provide information, practical sessions. So far, we have more than 16,000 social media followers. So we are very active in online, so you can keep in touch. And we also kindly, we told you, the EURAXESS services are free. So we just give you updated information from the source, from the European Commission through our program coordinator. So sign up for free. This is the place to sign up. And host institutes, you can also use this portal and EURAXESS. find a partnering section, we see more than 500,000 of institutions, entities registered, provide their profile, and thousands of professors from Europe, from associated countries that you may need to collaborate for Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 Horizon Europe programs. So there's so many opportunities through our website. Here, I think everybody knows EU funding and tender portal. If not, you need to sign up and you need to log into this account. This is the most important thing. It's a place where you find calls for proposals, including ERC, MSc, Pillar, every European Union funded projects available here. So you need to register. If your institute is not registered, you cannot participate. So that's the first criteria. The first thing you need to do is that log in and register your organization and get a PIC number, participation identification code. Most of the universities, most of the research institutes already registered, but you have to make sure that your organization is registered for it. So it is one-stop shop website. You get a lot of information about it. And we also post news that are relevant for African researchers, African innovators that we directly got from European Commission through our program coordinators, through our science counselor in Africa, through policy and desk officers in Brussels, headquarters, through experts in MSc, ERC, whatever. So keep in touch with our portal and get updates of information. So let's build together EURAXESS Africa Research and Innovation community and be part of it and be informed and be proactive with this program and with EURAXESS Africa. We are very happy to help you, to support you. Thank you, Ahmed. I'm done.
Thanks a lot, Fada, for this great presentation about EURAXESS Africa services and everything. So, time to give the floor to our speaker for today from ERC, Yanni Salou. Yanni, since 2010, he has served as a scientific officer at ERC, European Research Council Executive Agency, and currently coordinates the Synergy Grant evaluations in the field of science and engineering. So, Yanni, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll just share my presentation. Do you already see it?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. So my name is Yanni Salou. I work here in Brussels at the ERC. I'm a scientific officer. My background is physics. So we have scientific officers working in all fields of research and scholars in life sciences, humanities, social sciences, etc. But like I said, I'm working in the physical sciences and engineering. I'm very happy to talk to you today. Like this was already mentioned briefly, so ERC is part of the Horizon Europe program. It's a little bit a separate part in the Pillar 1, and the difference between ERC and the rest of the framework program is that most of the research that the Commission funds, the politicians want to decide how to use that money. They think that health research is very important, so we give a certain amount of money for health, etc., etc. But ERC, the specificity is that for 17% of the budget, so about 1/6, the politicians basically say, we leave this to the scientific community to decide how to use this money. We have our scientific council who sets the program, but they don't decide any priorities. So we take proposals on all areas of research, and we do our best to evaluate and choose the best ones to be funded, but they don't need to be directly linked to any political goals. Many are, like during the COVID pandemic, we didn't have anything specific for COVID, but we had about 200 grants that in effect were working or redirecting their research to work on COVID. And they made a huge impact on lots of aspects without any political decision behind it. So we trust the scientific community to take their decisions and address the questions that are the most burning, and we are not telling anybody what you should do. You tell us what you want to do, and you convince us that this is what we should be funding. So this is the ERC. It's about 1/6 of the framework program, and we are very happy that we are presenting this one corner that is quite unique. Now, what we think that it really makes a difference on research how you fund the research. It's not just that we give grants. The question is, how do we give the grants? And there are some studies on this. I quote here one where there was a comparison with the Howard Hughes Medical Institute in the US and the National Institute of Health also in the United States, with the difference that the Howard Hughes Medical Institute tolerates early failure, rewards long-term success, and gives its appointees great freedom to experiment. Whereas the National Institute of Health is subject to short review cycles, predefined deliverables, and renewal policies unforgiving of failure. And looking at the outcome, the Howard Hughes Medical Institute researchers actually produce more high-impact papers at higher rate than a control group in the NIH-funded scientists. And that's the thing. We trust that when the researchers have their choice on what they want to work on, they are more productive, they are more innovative in terms of ideas, and they bring things that the politicians or funding agencies couldn't know before. So we didn't know what should be done. You researchers know what you want to do, and you convince us. And then you have the freedom to carry your work. So that's basically the principle of the ERC. Okay. Here we have the ERC Scientific Council. So they are all renowned researchers on all fields of research and scholarships: life sciences, social sciences and humanities, and physical sciences and engineering. And they basically decide the principles of how we give out the grants, how we evaluate them, and they appoint all the panel members who evaluate, but they don't participate and they don't set priorities. So they are not telling us we need to research cancer. If we get good proposals in cancer, we will do cancer, but it's not a decision from the Scientific Council. They just create a system that works in all fields of research. Like was already mentioned, we have a relatively small number of grant schemes. So we have starting grants, consolidated grants, and advanced grants, which are sort of traditional ERC grants, and they are basically all the same thing. They are single principal investigator grants. So you as a researcher, you apply to fund your own group on your own research topic, and you get relatively generous funding for up to 5 years. These are starting, consolidator, advanced grants. The only difference is that we group the applicants in terms of the academic seniority. So the starting grants and consolidated grants have eligibility windows. So starting grants are currently from 2 to 7 years after your PhD, counting from the PhD defense date. The consolidators are 7 to 12 years, and the advanced grants are open. Well, they are basically for those who are above 12 years, but in fact, they are open for everybody because we are not looking at the PhD date. So theoretically, anybody can apply for advanced grants, but in practice, there are those who are more than 12 years after their PhD. The rules are essentially the same. The grant size varies a little bit. So the starting grant is up to 1.5 million euros for 5 years, plus 1 million euro for additional cost, depending on if you have a highly experimental project that needs laboratory equipment, or you need to do expensive field work and that sort of things. Then you can ask for this extra 1 million. Consolidator is 2 plus 1, and advanced grants is 2.5 plus 1 million euros. And the idea is that this money is really given to the principal investigator, who can decide on how to use that money for their research. Of course, you will be in a university or other research institution, and they will do all the accounting and etc. So it is controlled by the university, but within the university, you as the researcher have control of that money. There's a 25% overhead that goes to the university, but the rest is really for the research of the individual PI. Now, the synergy grant is a slightly different creature. So it is collaborative grant. It's 2 to 4 principal investigators who work jointly on a bigger program. It's up to 6 years, 10 million euros plus 4 million additional funding. So you can have up to 14 million euros for the group of 4 principal investigators. And of those 4, 3 need to be based in Europe, so European Union member states or the associated countries, but 1 can be anywhere in the world. So, and like it was also mentioned before, we have 1 synergy grant where one of the principal investigator with a group is based in Cape Town, South Africa. And that is purely paid by the EU. We don't require any local funding for that, but it can only be 1 out of the 4. It could also be 1 out of the 2. If you have a synergy grant for 2 principal investigators, 1 of the 2 can be outside Europe. Now, the proof of concept is a completely different thing. It's it is incentive to think outside academic research. So we are not requiring from normal ERC grants to produce products or commercialization or anything like that. But if an ERC grantee comes up with something that can be commercialized or industrialized, etc., we have this 150,000 euro grant for 1.5 years to take the first steps of the commercialization. It can be patenting costs, it could be business model creation, it could be prototype testing, anything that really aims at something that is applied or marketable. But it is only open for those who are already ERC grantees. We would probably love to open it for everybody, but the problem is that we don't have the capacity to evaluate all aspiring researchers wanting to apply something on markets. So we limit the grant to those who we know, who are the ERC grantees, and we want to incentivize them to think outside academic world if they so wish to do. It's not an obligation of any kind, but it is a first step that we want to encourage for those who want to take it. So why apply for an ERC grant? You can really choose your own research topic. You need to convince us that it's meaningful, but it can be anything you want to do, and it needs to be frontier. So we have an evaluation that is evaluating against the global state of the art. So you need to be globally at the frontier of your own area, but it can be any area, including applied research. So we have evaluation panels for engineering, for instance. So we do have engineering research. It just needs to be at the frontier of the engineering. But it doesn't need to be fundamental. It doesn't need to be physics or mathematics. It can really be engineering. It just needs to be at the frontier of its own field. True financial autonomy for 5 years, which is very helpful, especially if you want to start your own research career and launch yourself as an independent group leader. At least you have 5 years. You have a base funding, you get your own team, you get your equipment, etc. You can negotiate with your host institution. The ERC grants are portable, and it happens quite often, especially on the younger cohorts, that you apply. So you need to have one host institution who supports your application. But once you are selected, you can also move somewhere else. If you get an offer elsewhere, or you get better conditions, or whatever it is, you can take your grant and move with it. So you are not limited to stay at the host institution where you apply. You can attract team members from the European Union and outside, and collaborators. And like I said, the grants are portable, and it also helps people to attract additional funding. It also helps you to negotiate with the university. If you say that you have a 2 million ERC grant, if I come to your university, what can you do for me? Because you will be paying salaries of the researchers on that university, so they want you probably there, so you can negotiate with your ERC grants. Okay, I can bring my ERC grant, but what do you do for me? The synergy are a little exception, so I have marked it on the right. So of course, in synergy, you have 2 to 4 principal investigators. You need to agree jointly on something where on a research project where you are really working closely together. It's up to 6 years, and like I said, one of the synergy grantees can be anywhere in the world. So anyone from anywhere in the world can apply, and there are opportunities for researchers who come from outside the European Union and associated countries. But remember, apart from this one synergy grant PI, you still need to set your core team inside European institutions. But the interesting options that you have, there we have the one category which is called startup costs for those who come from outside European Union associated countries. So if you have been based elsewhere in the world and you come to Europe or the associated countries, you can request 1 million more in your grant. And now there's a recent announcement that this will be doubled for this year. So there's actually extra 2 million instead of extra 1 million. This has not been formalized yet, but the plan is that it would apply for the advanced grant in 2025, where the deadline is in August. And the plan is that it will also apply for all the ERC grants for the 2026 and 2027. So even for a starting grant, you can have 1.5 as a core budget, but extra 2 million coming from outside Europe. You can also keep your affiliations at your home institute outside Europe, but you will need to work at least 50% of your time in Europe. But yeah, you can, if it's beneficial for your project, you can still keep your original institute as an associated partner and place half of your team in Europe, half of your team in your original university. But it needs to be beneficial for your research project. It cannot just be beneficial for your keeping your connection and your career. It needs to be beneficial for the work itself. But that's, of course, you need to plan it carefully, and you can use that as it's a element that you can benefit, but you need to do it smartly. The grantees, like I said, can move within Europe, so that's occasionally useful. Of course, you shouldn't be jumping all the time, but if you get a tenure track position or a permanent position in a different university, you can take your grant with you, and then you can choose your transitions. You don't need to go immediately. You can still keep part of your group in the original host institution and take the rest with you in the new one. We are quite flexible on that. We also have what is called implementing arrangement, which is a name that doesn't mean anything, but it is a system that allows researchers from outside Europe to apply locally for a short-term fellowship to visit ERC projects. Now in Africa, only the South African National Research Foundation has set up this scheme. So unfortunately, it's not available to anybody else. But if you come from South Africa, there is a local program that allows you to visit existing ERC projects if you are planning to create an ERC application later. The projects, like I said, we are basically fully funding your project if we select it for funding. So you can get your own salaries, your team member salaries, equipment, consumables, travel, publication costs, etc. You can include additional beneficiaries also outside Europe if it makes if it's needed for the project. And we will pay 25% overhead for the university for hosting you. And the extra budget that you can apply beyond these 1.5, 2 or 2.5 million is for startup costs for those coming from outside Europe, purchase of major equipment, access to large facilities, and other experimental fieldwork costs, excluding personnel cost. So apart from the startup cost, the basic idea of this is that the normal grant, the base amount should cover all the personnel costs, but if you have major additional costs that require something else than personnel, then you can go to this additional funding and apply for a larger grant. Very briefly, we organize our evaluations in panels, but these are not priorities. These are just practical evaluation panels so that you can choose from these 28 panels the one that is best placed to appreciate your research. So if you do electrical engineering, you should apply for PE7 because that's the panel who is best informed in the topic and they can appreciate what you do. Sometimes you have topics that somehow fall a little bit between panels. So then you need to take your own decision on which panel you apply for. And in that case, you can also mark a secondary panel to indicate us that, okay, this proposal would also benefit from some reviews from the other panel. You don't get any extra points or anything for being interdisciplinary, but by indicating a secondary panel when you apply, it helps us to make sure that we are not missing some expertise in the evaluation that would be useful for your proposal. But like I said, these are not priorities. All of these panels get budget relative to their demand. So if we have twice as many proposals coming to fundamental constituents of matter, which is a physics panel, compared to the mathematics panel, then they also get twice as much budget. So in the end, all panels should have essentially the same success rate. So the success rate is not an issue here. We are just distributing the budget based on the demand. So like I said, they are not funding priorities and they get budget proportional to demand. And you should choose the panel that is best placed to appreciate the groundbreaking nature of your proposal. And indicate second panel if you think that's useful. And we ask you also to provide keywords. They are only used to help us to select the right experts. So keep that in mind when you indicate a keyword. Excellence is the sole evaluation criteria. It's split in two parts. So we look at the excellence of the research project. So we're looking at the groundbreaking nature, potential scientific impact, and scientific approach, and the excellence of the principal investigator. So you need to show your achievements, commitment, intellectual capacity in the field. like in most grand scheme, is not anything super complicated, but it is done in a way that you describe and document what you've done, and then the panel looks at it. We are not giving any points, so we are not working in a point-based system. The panel looks at your proposal, what you want to do. If they think it's groundbreaking, then they are looking at you as a principal investigator to see if you have demonstrated the skills and expertise to actually carry out the project. So it's not based on numbers or points or anything. It's really ranking the proposals based on the ideas and the PI's, the applicant's capacity to carry out the work. Now, when you are preparing your proposal, it comes in two parts. They are sometimes called part 1 and 2, or B1 and B2. It doesn't really matter. What I should mention that we are slightly reframing those parts. We are not making any big changes, but they will be described and structured slightly differently. And why I'm saying this is that we have the advanced grant call that closes in August, and that will still follow the current rules, but all the calls that start after that, so we have starting grants probably in October, etc., they will follow the new ones. So whenever you are applying, go to the funding and tender portal, like Jelvana just showed, and there you have the documents that are updated for each of the calls, so you know that you are following the latest correct documentation. In any case, here I'm mostly using the terminology of the future calls, but it's not that we have changed anything drastically. So now the first part of the proposal, the evaluation happens in two phases. And in the first phase, the panel will only see your part 1 of the proposal. And this is important thing, because you can't, if there's something that is critical to show why your proposal is groundbreaking, it needs to be in the first part of the proposal, because if you don't put it there, you might be eliminating the second round of the evaluation, and nobody will ever see that in the second part of the proposal you had something really important. So you need to focus make sure that the groundbreaking nature really comes through in the first part of the proposal. The second part is more technical on the methodology, etc., to make sure that you have all the details, but all the big thoughts have to be in the first part. So you need to lay out the current state of knowledge, explain the scientific questions and objectives, what you're doing, and present an overall research strategy, how you are going to run the project. But it is important that you do this, lay out the current state of knowledge. So you show the evaluation panel that you really know what the state is globally, what the others are doing, and how you are doing something different from that. You somehow need to show that you know your competitors, so you really know who you are competing against in your own area, and why does your own idea stand out. If you have preliminary results, tell us why is it timely, why wasn't it done already, so why is this now the right time for your project. And you need to be concise, because the panel members act as generalists. You might have 1 or 2 panel members who are very close to your field, but the others might not be. So you need to somehow write your proposal in the way that the entire panel, so I just go back to the panels. So if you apply to, say, Earth System Sciences, you can't just write to those who are just doing seismology, and nobody else will understand. You have to think in terms of who are in that panel, so that everybody can somehow follow your presentation. In the second part of the proposal, you can then go to nitty-gritty details and really show that you master them, because at that moment the proposal will be sent globally to specialists on your proposal topic, and they can then analyze that. Now the other part of the first part of the proposal is the CV. We have changed that a little bit. It's nothing super complicated. You show your basic education qualification, current and previous positions, and then maybe the most important part is to show 10 research outputs that demonstrate how you have advanced the knowledge in the field. And you should in many cases, there are 10 papers, but you need to be careful to select those papers. It's not just high impact journal papers or just the ones directly related to the proposal. You need to show that you are independent, you have been doing independent work, you know the expertise, the techniques, whatever you need to know about this particular proposal. So you want to select the 10 research outputs with some short explanation on each of them to show that you cover the different aspects needed here. I just give this as an example. Of course, it's great if you have a Nature paper, but if you have a Nature paper with 25 authors and you are somewhere in the middle of the list and nobody knows exactly what you did for that paper, and maybe the paper is not super highly cited, it's not necessarily the best paper to put here. Of course, if you are the first author of the highly cited paper where you really did the core things, that is important. So select things that you have achieved and contributed yourself, not something that you were in a large group that managed to jointly create a paper where you are somewhere loose in the group. So think about that when you write your proposal and select those 10 things. Then we ask you to show examples of significant peer recognition. They can be very different in different topics, so I'm not going to elaborate what they might be. You might be an editor. Okay, I give some examples. You might be an editor of a journal, or you might have got a big prize for something. There's something that the community has really valued your work, and you've been nominated to something, or you've given a prize, or whatever it is. And for contacts, you can also and you should mention career breaks, diverse career paths, etc., so that the panel can read your CV better. If you have a gap of 2 years in your research output, the panel can be a bit puzzled. But if you say that, okay, I was on maternity leave, or I had a major accident or something, you have an explanation, and the panel, okay, then it's fine. That's completely understandable. But if there's a gap somewhere and you don't say anything why there is this gap, then the panel is puzzled. They don't know what happened. So this is context. It's not anything that gives you points or reduces points or anything, but it helps the panel to understand your achievements. Now, then we have the full scientific proposal, and this is only opened if you are invited in the second part of the process. And this is important to understand, because sometimes we get people complaining that all this additional information was in step 1. Why didn't you take it into account it was in part 2? Why didn't you take it into account in part 1? That's because the panel doesn't see it. It doesn't happen very often, but it's good to think of it. And don't waste time here. Don't repeat the synopsis, because whoever is reviewing this part 2, they will also see the part 1. So the panel is usually annoyed if you repeat things, especially if you copy paste things from the part 1 to part 2. So be careful, use it wisely, and elaborate all the details. This is where you give everything, all the nitty-gritty things, risky parts of the project, how you're going to address the risk, etc., etc. So here you have more space. Then if you if you make to the second part, you are also immediately invited to interview, except for synergy, where there's still elimination in step 2 before you have the interviews in step 3. But in most cases, you will be interviewed in step 2. And prepare your presentation carefully. Read all the guidance that we send you, so that if we tell you you have 8 minutes to present your project with PowerPoints, you practice it. It's exactly 8 minutes. You think carefully what you want to say. If you have something new that has happened since you submitted a proposal, you explain it. You tell, okay, we actually have now preliminary results that support this and this thing, and we actually now know how to address that tricky part. So this is your chance to really to talk to the panel and tell them, first of all, summarize what you are doing, because of course not everybody reads every proposal, so you need to give the whole panel on board. But it's also your chance to tell them if something has happened, and you should also be aware that if the field has changed, so somebody else has been doing similar thing, then you can say how your project is still different from the others, but the panel wants to know that you know what is happening in the field. It is in a way, it's a very informal interview. It's really talking about your project. They are not mechanical questions. They are really interested to understand how you are going to make your project work. Follow the timing and all the instructions. Make sure to have a mock interview with somebody. Most host institutions organize these for you at least once, maybe twice. You can also have an interview with some colleagues, somebody who reads your proposal and asks you questions about it. Be very well prepared, because what I see all those interviews, and everybody is very, very, very well prepared. And if somebody comes there a little bit ad hoc, it stands out. It doesn't necessarily come as a bad thing, but it will be noticed if somebody didn't really practice the presentation or something. You really need to show that you can get it. Also, talk to anybody who you know who might have an ERC grant or has been in an interview. Talk to them, ask their advice. We will get Prince's advice today, so that's going to be very useful, etc. There are a couple of novelties since 2024. Maybe I'll just point out one here, which was this focus on research. So earlier we somehow handled the applicant and the research on the same level. Now the focus is on the research, and the research will be somehow the ranking happens based on the research, but then at the same time the panel will look at your CV to see your capacity to run the research and your experience in all the tricky bits that are necessary for it, etc. But the focus is on research. I think that's the most important thing here. I repeat my comment on the 2025 advanced grant, which is the one in August. The rules are slightly different. Make sure that you use the right template and you read the right documentation. If you apply for the starting grant 2026, which probably the deadline is going to be in October this year, or any after that, don't just, if you have an earlier application, make sure that you adjust that to the changed templates and you check the evaluation criteria, how they are now written, so that you are speaking the same language that is expected for the 2026 evaluation. Like I said, it's not a change on any evaluation principle. We are still looking essentially the same things, but it's the templates are slightly different. The evaluation questions have been reformulated, so just make sure that you follow the right ones. Here we have the coming deadlines. So the only ones that are now fixed are the advanced grant in August, 28th of August. There will be another proof of concept deadline on the 18th September. And then after that, everything is still pending. So they will be announced in the funding and tender portal when things come out. I don't expect any changes on these, but they are not official, so they are not official, and there might be some last minute changes. But this is essentially what you can expect in the coming. We have ERC classes on YouTube. So basically, we have colleagues there who speak through different aspects of the evaluation that give you an idea of the practical hints and tips on how to prepare for the different aspects. We are preparing new videos, so these are currently still the old ones. The new ones should be coming relatively soon. But like I said, the principles have not changed, but of course the legal bits and some criteria may have been adjusted. So these videos are not legal advice. They are introduction to what ERC evaluation is and what you should think about. But of course, the rules are then the rules, and you will need to check that once the call is in the funding and tender portal, you will have the official rules there. There are some links here. That's all. And that's all my presentation. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'm sure that we will get through different channels, and I will stay here with you to answer as many as I can.
Thanks a lot, Yanni, for this nice presentation, for useful information. So and now, before the Q&A session, I think we have a lot of questions already there. We have more than 500 participants, so we are excited to see the questions and to reply for those want to apply to ERC grants. So now we can give the floor to our testimonial for today, Ambassador Prince Amaniampong, recently appointed as ERC ambassador. So the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Thank you all for your insightful information. I really wish, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I really wish I had this rich information before I was applying for my ELC starting grants. But anyway, thank you, participants, for making it this morning. My name is Prince Nana Ambeniampon. I am a CNRS researcher. CNRS is the abbreviation for the French National Center for Scientific Research. So I'm a scientist at the French National Center for Scientific Research, and I lead a research group focused on catalysis, basically the use of ultrasound for performing chemistry for health, energy, and chemical applications. And I'm also an ELC starting grant awardee. I applied for the ELC in 2022, and I got it in 2023. I would say I was fortunate because it was my first trial, and it was my last time to apply for the ELC. Just as Jan said, for the starting grant, you must have been between 1 year to 7 years after your PhD. So I was just at the blink of my last year. So it was either I apply for it or forget about the starting grant and apply for the consolidator. And I am here today not just as a recipient of the European Research Council grant, but also as someone who once sat where many of you are now, where many of you are now, really contemplating the daunting task of applying, questioning my qualifications, and wondering even if my ideas were groundbreaking enough. Because for the ELC, you must really have a groundbreaking idea. And I must also add that the ELC grant is more than just a substantial funding opportunity, just as my other panelists explained. For me, it is really a testament to the belief in pioneering ideas and the individuals behind those ideas. The application process can be really rigorous, I must say. It's demanding clarity of vision, originality of your idea and thoughts, and a deep commitment to advancing knowledge. But it's precisely this rigor that makes the achievement so rewarding when you are able to get these ERC grants. You know, when I first considered applying for the ERC grants, well, sometimes you'll be filled with mixed excitement and apprehension because, you know, when you get these grants, it brings you prestige, it brings you the freedom to explore your ideas and so forth and so more. But the prestige associated with the grant can be really intimidating. So I questioned whether my ideas were groundbreaking enough or whether they were original enough. However, I really did remind myself that the ERC is designed to support high risk and high gain research. So, I mean, you really must think outside the box if you are planning to apply for an ERC grant. ERC, I must say, ERC does not fund, um, I would say, this terminology, continuous research. The research must be really original. And it's about pushing the boundaries and venturing into really uncharted territories. That is why the ERC is here. I have this, I always say this as a joke, but it's something that happened when I was at the interview, in the interview during my second phase for the ERC grant. There was a section on AI at using artificial intelligence to model some processes in my ERC project. And one panel member just mentioned that, Prince, this is really, really difficult and challenging. And I didn't have any answer to give. So I said, well, it's challenging. That is why I brought it to the ERC. And then they all started laughing. So, I mean, the ERC is there to really fund or attempt to fund really challenging and innovative projects. I will just move also to the preparation process. For me, preparing for my application, I dedicated significant time to refining my research question, which is very important because if you cannot explain your research question to someone who is outside your field in less than 1 minute, it means you do not understand exactly the research question that you are proposing to solve. And also ensuring that your research question is both ambitious and feasible. I also engaged some of my colleagues for feedback. I attended workshops that was organized by our institute, just one workshop, not as rich as we are having today, and even practiced mock interviews. I practiced one time per day when I was notified that I was going to have my interview phase, which is very important because being able to master your thoughts and be able to flow during the interview phase is really important. Because mind you, for my time when I was being interviewed, it was by video, not in person. And in case you have any challenges, technology challenges, the ERC, the panel is going to call you on your mobile phone. And then you must be able to defend your project on your mobile phone. So practicing really helps here. And also, this comprehensive preparation not only strengthened my proposal, I must say, but it also boosted my confidence, which is really important when applying for the ERC. Now I will also move for some advices for potential applicants. I group them into 5 advice that I give to most people who approach me for advice when they're about to apply for ERC. The first is, I will say, start early. Give yourself ample time to develop and refine your proposal. This is really important because if you rushed your application, you would not be able to capture the depth and the insights of the innovation that you would want to portray in your proposal. Number 2, please seek feedbacks. Engage your peers, your mentors, and your colleagues because diverse perspective can provide invaluable insights. But be cautious when doing this, when seeking feedbacks. Be very cautious. Why? Because you know the ERC grant is really competitive. You might submit your proposal, you might give your proposal to a lot of people to read because you want constructive feedbacks. But mind you, this is the scientific world. People might take your idea. So give your proposal to people you trust that who will not take your idea when your ERC proposal is not funded. Because you might be surprised that you give your proposal to someone to review, to give you feedback, and the person who might submit the same proposal to another funding, which is less prestigious than ERC. So be very careful when you are seeking feedbacks for your ERC proposals. The third point that I would give is be resilient. Rejections are part of the process. I know colleagues who applied 3 times, 4 times before they got the ERC. Some applied even 5 times and never got the ERC. But it doesn't mean you are not a good scientist. It just have to mean that you just have to keep pushing. So be resilient and use those rejections as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. The fourth advice that I'd often give is that stay true to your vision. Ensure your proposal reflects your passion, because science is about passion. I am interviewing PhD students to join my research group. I ask them, why do you want to do a PhD and not go into the industry? Because science is about passion. It is this passion that drives you in the morning to go to the lab and to repeat what keeps failing every day. So your proposal must reflect that passion and long-term research goals. The authenticity must resonate in your proposal. And then the fifth one, which is not the last but not the least, is practice your presentation. If you are shortlisted, congratulations, because less than 20% of applicants get to the second stage, which is the interview stage. So if you are shortlisted, please practice your interview, your presentation, because the interview is your opportunity, as Jan said, to convey your enthusiasm and the significance of your research. Practice until you can present confidently and succinctly. So I would say probably in very short term to conclude, because I'm not going to take a lot of time, that securing the ERC grant has been really transformative for me personally, for my research group and my career. Why? Because it has provided me not just funding, but validation of my ideas and the freedom to explore them fully. And also to those considering applying, please, please, please believe in your potential. The journey might be really, really challenging because the ERC, it's really a prestigious, I would say again, funding opportunity, and it's not a walk in the park. So the journey may be challenging, but the rewards, both personal and professional, are really immense. And to conclude, I would say the ERC seeks to fund ideas that push boundaries and to challenge the status quo. So your unique perspective and dedication can lead to breakthroughs that resonate beyond academia. So thank you for coming. The mere fact that you are here, it's the first step to showing that you are really motivated to do cutting edge research and to push the frontiers of science. So I'll be here throughout this webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. And originally I'm from Ghana. I did not mention that. So originally I'm from Ghana, but currently based in France. Thank you all.
Hey, thanks, Franz, for this nice testimonial. So it's great to listen to you, to listen to your tips and your experience as ambassador, and we are very happy to host you today. So Fana, I think we have a lot of questions, and Yanni, as you know, we have a lot of questions.
Can I have a quick comment here? This is a thought that
Yes.
Prince's talk somehow brought to my mind. When you are preparing the proposal, of course, it make sure that you follow all the current literature, and it can be painful to check. Has anybody tried this before? And maybe you find somebody just 1 year ago started publishing something on the approach that you are going to suggest. So that's, first of all, it's painful to find it if you didn't know that before, but it also opens you the possibilities. Okay, can I add something to that they didn't do yet? Because the panel really, you need to know where the state of the art is, and also follow it after you submit, before you get to the interview, because the panel really appreciates it if you are honest there, and so if they ask about something, what has happened meanwhile, and you know actually there's this group that have started doing this and this and this. I was really thinking about it, and my approach is different from that because X. But if you didn't follow that, you will not be able to say that, and really stay at the frontier of what's happening in the field, and doing this finding all the papers to the very end of your submission time. It's painful, but it's very important. So you know that you are in the frontier, because if you think you are the frontier but you are not there, it's not good.
Nice. Okay. So, Fana, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Ahmed. I really appreciate the panelists, both Dr. Jani and Dr. Prince, for their very nice and impressive presentation, and sharing their also experience as a scientific officer and as a grantee holder. It's really amazing. I'm myself impressed by the presentation. Is very, very helpful, and I hope it also encourages the participants to apply for ERC and other Horizon Europe grants. That's really impressive. We received a lot of questions from participants. Some of them are directly to EURAXESS Africa. The other are to Dr. Jani and Prince. They can also reflect on those questions. Regarding the EURAXESS Africa, I think some are asked how they sign up for free membership to receive information about the Horizon Europe from EURAXESS flash note and the newsletter. Just as I showed you in my presentation, if you just Google EURAXESS Africa, and then the first window, you will get the yellow highlighted section that requires you to sign up for free membership, and you will fill some 3-5 questions, and you will approve your registration and start receiving emails from EURAXESS Africa. The others are also asking how they can put their profile and their institute profile in the EURAXESS website, as well as in the EU funding and tender portal. Yes, that's really possible. That's actually why I was presenting this issue during my presentation. So this is possible, and this is without cost. It's just free. Some also ask if you pay for any registration for ERC. Membership, no payment at all in EURAXESS services. So you can register yourself, your profile, your institute profile, so that even European applicants or associated country researcher applicants can easily see your profile, your institute profile, and your visibility will be increased, and you'll be contacted for collaborative work, for a collaborative research. So that's really interesting. You can provide your personal profile as a researcher or innovator, and as well as your institute profile in the EURAXESS and in the EU tender and portal. It's free. And if you need a procedure how to register, I hope we can make it. We can send you an information about how you log in, how you register to EURAXESS and EU tender and funding portal. We'll do that. And most of the participants also ask if we're going to share our presentations. My presentation and Dr. Jani's presentation will definitely be shared right after this webinar, and you can also find the recorded video on our YouTube. It is already recorded, so you can get today's presentations and the recorded videos. The others, yes, yeah, we, as much as we can, we try to respond emails, because the problem is we receive a lot of emails, a lot of requests from individual researchers from institutions in Africa, and we try our best to respond to those inquiries, but we may, just to be honest, we may not return all the questions, but we are doing our best to reply to your inquiries and provide you informations on funding and mobility and collaborative issues. Maybe let me go directly to ERC to Dr.
Yes.
One of the questions is the START grants consider other PhD, other doctoral degrees like a medical doctor?
The medical doctor, yes, it's a slightly complicated thing. So you actually need to check the rules. So medical doctor who is not a PhD can be eligible, but that requires further specialization that needs to be documented. So I can't tell you the exact rules. That is definitely part. If you look at the work program when it's published, you find the call in the funding agenda portal. You have the documents there. There's an explanation how that works. We also have each call, so the starting grant, the consolidated grant, they have an applicant email address where you can ask questions, and then we have a sort of a team who answers them. So even if you were to you have my email address in the presentation, if it comes to me, I will actually send it to them, because I want to be sure that they give you consistent answers to everybody, so they will answer on details. But we accept it, but it comes with some extra conditions. So the medical doctors.
The next question, yeah, you also mentioned actually during your presentation, but it's good to clarify as well. Which research area can be funded through ERC?
So we basically,
a new idea can be granted. Agriculture, engineering, health. Many people ask their own field of
we do that.
They can apply
we
for
definitely
ERC.
We do agriculture as well, or what we call applied biotechnology. So it needs to be on the research question approach, but the topics exist. There's actually only one research area that is excluded from the ERC, and there's a sort of a long historical reason, is that's a nuclear energy research. So if it's whether it's a fusion or fission nuclear energy, Europe has a different organization to fund that research, and that excludes the European Union from funding it. So that's the only thing that is not included.
Yeah, so you can apply in any field. That is
in any field that counts as research. So we have had very, very, very few proposals over the duration of the ERC where we conclude that this is not research. But I mean, I'm talking about less than 5 out of hundreds of thousands of applications. So we basically see that this is submitted to the wrong place.
One participant also asked he or she graduated on July 2023.
Starting grant in the October is fine.
For advance.
Well, theoretically yes,
but asking if he can or she apply for advanced grant. Yeah,
she can, but it is extremely competitive. I should say, so the starting grant range is 2 to 7 years. We have extensions for career breaks, maternity leave, parental leaves, etc., so it can be extended. We have roughly the same success rate through the whole window. So theoretically, I can say that if you apply 2 years after your PhD or 7 years after the PhD, your success rate is the same. However, there is lots of self-selection. So those who apply 2 years after the PhD, they are really global top. So most of the applicants come towards the end of the window and not in the beginning of the window. So if you apply in the beginning, you really need to know what you're doing. You can do it, but it's hard.
I will give a practical example. If you finish your PhD in 2023 and you're already thinking of applying for an advanced grant, think that you'll be competing with Nobel Prize winners, because advanced grant is for people who are already established in their field. We have Nobel Prize winners. We have field medal winners. So you completed your PhD in 2003. You have only 2 years post PhD experience. So I would advise you go for starting grant.
Exactly. Maybe Prince could be answered by you. I think he's a master student. The other participant is a PhD student, and they are asking if there is a possibility of staff exchange kind of things for a couple of months, maybe until 1 year. Is there a possibility to visit ERC grantee
I
or
think
other
the
researchers?
ERC, I
We
think
fully
Yano have more.
sponsor.
Yano have more information, but I know that we receive ERC grantees often receive emails from to be a host for people, researchers from different countries outside
Yeah.
Europe who would want to visit on short terms. So I know there is a scheme like that, but I've forgotten exactly what the name of the scheme. But yes, there is something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think in MSA staff exchange, there's some possibility, and we'll actually prepare a webinar next
I would say the best
time about MSA stuff. It's also pillar one, but yes,
the connection
yes,
is a little bit
Gianni.
program now.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, very good. So I would say the easiest way is to just apply to join the team as a master student. So that, of course, each principal investigator decides themselves how they recruit their people, but ERC, so comparing to Marie Curie is of course a training program for PhD students, etc. But actually, ERC grants fund more PhD students than Marie Curie. So each group, it's not centralized. There are no structure there. But if you find a ERC PI who works in the field that you are interested in, and you would be interested in also moving to that university as a master student or PhD student and apply to be in that team, that is the way to get there. We as an ERC don't really have any mediatory role on that. The only thing is that those who, like I mentioned, this implementation agreement. So if you are planning to apply already, then in some countries the local system can fund you to visit an ERC project for say 6 months, but that's usually when you are a couple of years after your PhD. But the ERC teams recruit tens of thousands of people, so working in those teams. So that's the way to get in especially when you're starting your PhD, you can apply to start a PhD in one of those teams.
Yeah, thank you, Gianni. I think most of the questions are almost similar, kind of repetition, so I may not go through all of them. I think Gianni already mentioned if there is any upcoming calls recently. For example, the START grant is around autumn, right? And the advanced grant is going to be open around August. The rest are still wait to see the open. About MSA, we don't really focus today about it. Maybe my colleague Ahmed, if you find on the chat box or in the Q&A session more questions, you can come.
I'm also scrolling the Q&As. I see that there's
or
somebody.
Maybe we can entertain a couple of live questions.
Okay.
Maybe live questions. You can raise your hand if you want to ask live questions to Gianni and Prince. Of course, for EURAXESS Africa. Live questions.
Maybe I can comment. I can see some of the questions on the chat that I could comment.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
So there's one. Somebody's asking about when I say institution, does it mean universities? ERC, it's mostly universities or public funding research institutions, but it's not limited to those. So we have a small number of grants also in private research organizations. So that is fine, but they are quite rare, because they're usually at the level of like there's a Microsoft Europe that operates in Copenhagen. They have the research institution, so it's a massive research organization still, even if it's private. So it's like a small business, medium business research development is probably not the way to go, but they are private organizations. There's also a question: is there an ERC call for African-based researchers? No, this is a global call, so it's open to all applicants from all countries, but you will need to settle in European institution at least 50% of your time. Now I see hands up. So
Yes,
maybe
maybe we can start with Maruf Sani. Dr.
Hello.
Maruf Sani, he's from Nigeria. Maruf, you can unmute.
Very much.
Yeah. We can't hear you, Maruf.
Hello.
Now we can hear you. Hello, Maruf.
Oh, okay.
Can
Okay. Hello,
continue.
Yadifana. Good morning. Good morning, Yadifana. Good morning, Ahmed. It's nice seeing you again. So thank you very much, Salojane and Prince, for those wonderful presentations. I have 2 questions, and I'll be very quick. The first one is, can I just apply as an individual, researcher, or do I need members, together with me? That's one part. The second part is those members, if I do need members, for that particular project, must they come from Europe, or they can all come from Africa? Meaning, do I need to pick members from associated countries? Do I need to pick from member country? So that's number one. Number two is, what are the success rates across all the ERC grants? What do they look like? Thank you.
So the members, as in team members, they can also come anywhere. So you will really set your team in a European host institution, but then you recruit based on what are the best needs for your project, and you can recruit from anywhere. It's that we are ERC has no say or policy on that, and the universities are supposed to give the PI a full right to choose their own team members. Now, if you are only moving to a new host institution, so you are applying from say Africa, and you found a host institution in Europe where you want to go, of course you are not there yet. That's perfectly fine. It happens, but be sure that you are in good contact with the host institution in advance, so that you discuss with them how many postdocs you can cover with the funding of that grant, how many PhD students, so that you plan your budget and the team composition with them, so that it's realistic and you will be able to have that. And if you already have somebody working in that host institution who says, okay, I would like to be in your team, then you can already have that mentioned in your proposal, that I need people of the following profiles, and this person could do that job, and that person could do that job, and then the rest we recruit separately. But you need to have a good planning of how many postdoc years, how many PhD years you have in your project, and at least a good preparation who those people, if you don't have the name of the person already in mind, at least you have the profile of what expertise you are needing. And even if you have a person who agrees to be in your team, they might move elsewhere and you can replace. It's not a commitment that person has to be in your team, but at least you have prepared your work. Because the idea is that when you get your grant, you get a running landing. You're ready to. You already know how to set your team, so maybe you get a couple of months to move to the new host institution and start working, but you are very well prepared to do it. But if you have somebody else who you have already worked in your home country on a similar topic, you can say that this is one of the people I want to recruit for a specific profile that I have in my project. But you really need to have that in mind already, because the panel, when they look at your proposal, they want to know that you have done all the planning. It's not that if you get your grant, then you start planning your team. You have planned your team, and if you need to change it, you can still change it, but at least you have done the planning. But you can recruit people definitely from your own country and anywhere in the world. There's no requirement on that.
And I'll add a little
What
bit.
about the success rate? You also asked this one. Okay,
Yeah, the
Prince,
success
you would
rate.
like
Yeah,
The
to
success
say
rate.
something.
I wanted to add a little bit to what Jan said about the team.
Okay,
Just for
thanks, Prince.
just for clarity, when you say team, are you talking about collaborators or the team that is your research team, your future research team that you would anticipate to have? When it comes
I
to,
think
let's
so.
say, PI level team, it depends on the grant that you are applying for. For example, for starting grants are individual grants. So 80 to 90% of the global work packages, when I talk of work packages, I really mean that the context of the research that you would plan to execute must be the PI, you yourself applying for the grant. You risk giving the notion to the panel or the reviewers that, for example, if you have a lot of collaborators in your starting grant, reviewers might think you are really not an expert in your field and you are diffusing part of your work to people who are rather experts. So they might have the idea the project is not your project, it's the project of other collaborators, and then they are using you as the front to apply for the grant. So be very careful with that when you're applying for starting grant. It should be an individual grant. You must demonstrate that you are the one applying for it and you are the only person who will be able to execute the idea that you are proposing. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you, Prince. Maybe Yannick, can you comment on the success rate of maybe the average in all these ERC
So the
grants,
ERC
or
success
maybe
rates
for
are
start grants,
basically
the success rate?
okay. I think there's a little delay. Okay, so the ERC, the success rate is essentially somewhere between 10 to 15%. It varies, of course, a little bit, but that's pretty, 10 to 15%.
Let's go to the second live questions. Maybe I can give to Olifemi Adatunji. I may not be correct pronouncing it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me too?
Briefly.
Yeah. Just a quick question.
Yes.
I want to ask if ERC starting grant 2026 is open as of now, because I can only hear the deadline, which is October. And if it's not open, when is the probable time that it will open?
We should be ready with the work program hopefully in July. So in July it should open. You can already start, of course, preparing. It's not that they will be, in terms of your scientific project, there are no changes that would completely change what you need to do. So you can already prepare definitely for it. But the official opening, so we will have to have our work program approved, officially adopted, and then we can open the call. So it will appear in funding and tender portal in July. With most, that's almost 100% sure.
Thank you, Yanni. Next question, live question by Shibashi Haile, I think from Ethiopia.
Yes, thank you. Also, thank you for the nice presentations. I want to know a little bit more about about the research work, the research side. For example, in the case of like these environmental or climate researches, the research can be possible to be proposed outside Europe, or also it can be a multiple sites in Europe or outside Europe in other regions, for example, in Africa and Europe. Is it possible to do outside only, or is it possible to make in both regions, or it would be only in Europe? How to do? Thank you.
Okay, so you would need, as a principal investigator, you need to commit 50% working time in Europe. So you will need to have your primary host institution in Europe, with the exception of synergy grants, where one of the researchers can be permanently outside Europe. But definitely, if you do research that it's research about something outside Europe, if you are working on impact of climate change in certain African region, definitely you can plan research in that area. You will go there, you will do field work, whatever you need to do there, and that's perfectly fine and fundable. But and you can also have a local partner institution where you can even have team members, but your primary affiliation should still be in Europe as the researcher. So you need to plan that carefully, and you need to have the European host institution, who are the coordinating host institution, who will be employing you and paying your salary, etc. But you can do work outside Europe, and you can have even team members and partners outside Europe. I hope that
Thank you, René.
answers the question.
Another question? Yeah, definitely. Let me try to pronounce it. Aknipelu Oyukunil.
Thank you so much. You did pronounce it well. Yeah, and thanks to the presenters. I've been really.
Please, can you present yourself from which country before?
Okay, I am Akinpelu Oyekunle. I'm from Nigeria.
Okay, nice.
Okay. Well, I have two questions. The first is that, okay, the background is that I want to. My plan is to apply for the startup grants, and for that I want to ask: I need to apply to a host that I'm known with before, or in a host that that is not known to me? Because I remember I once read for a particular grant that you must not have been in Europe for a certain period of time. And like myself, I have been to the host I'm planning for. I've been with the host sometimes in 2022. That's Rachel Carson Center for Environment and Society in Munich. I've been there since 2022. So I'm planning to pick them now. Or do I need to pick a different host that I've not collaborated with before? That is my first question. My second question is that the last question, part of it, but I want to ask, since it's an ERC grant, must my research have sort of a kind of borders with development in Europe, or must it be focusing on other part of the world?
So first of all, it's of course easier to have a host institution that you already know. There's no mobility requirement. It's not like Marie Curie, where you need to move between host institutions. There's zero mobility requirements in ERC. So if you have been working with was it Technical University of Munich or University of Munich? Either way, definitely start with them. If they are happy to host your project and you have a good environment there, there's no reason for you to. There's no requirement that you should go somewhere else. That's the first thing. Then the connection for me was a little breaking for the second part of the question, but in terms of research, if I got it correctly, the research topic, or is I mean, you can definitely work on topic that centers in your home country or Africa or regions of Africa or whatever it is. There's no the research topic is not limited in any way to Europe. It's a global research area. If there's that's perfectly fine. But if I didn't get correctly the second part, just
no, Yanni, you get the question correctly.
Okay.
I'm glad you gave the clarifications. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we definitely
now let's
have
give it-
projects that working on Africa, history, archaeology, climate, all that. It's ongoing business all the time for us.
Yeah, thank you. I
Thank
think
you.
we are running out of time, but we got one female participant question. I think we have to entertain her. Tosin Olensakin.
Okay.
Sorry for
Hi, thank you. The name is Tosin Onanishakin. You tried to pronounce it very well. Okay. So I'm from Nigeria also. And
From Nigeria,
the initial question I have has been partly answered. I wanted to ask if I can be fully hosted in an African institution, especially if all the field work needs to be done in Africa. I think that has been partially answered. So what I want to know now is that in my proposal, is it important to present my application in a way that shows that I would spend majority of the time in Europe, or does is that very important to if my field work is really going to be in Africa?
So you should definitely. My guess, I'm not exactly dealing with a situation like this, so I'm not speaking of direct experience. But if you have 50% work contract with the European host institution, then you have another partner organization university in Africa, then you can make that as a partner institution with 50% of your working time there. And then you can do the field work, but you need at least. I think our first approach on this 50% stay in Europe is covered as at least you need to have the 50% work contract in Europe. But then you can move between the two if your grant is sufficient to cover the work. A team in Europe and a team in Africa, then you can really plan your work on those bases. But this 50% time commitment is a key. So at least you personally and some team should be based in Europe for the 50% of time.
Yeah.
But that is actually
Thank
you can as long as you prepare the proposal generally along those lines. If we accept the proposal for funding, when it goes to negotiation, then we will fine tune the details. But definitely you will be able to spend at least 50% of the time in the field work outside Europe. That's not an issue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yanni. Yeah, for the interest of time, I think we are
Yeah, we can,
running
Hannah,
out of time. Maybe we'll
yes.
couple of
Have the-
continue. Okay, maybe
Yes.
Ugumba Kukima. She's also female, and ask maybe
Okay.
it's live, or you would like to write it? Ugumba Kukima. She mentions that she's a female and would like to ask question.
Yes. No, it's
And
okay.
give a chance.
Yes.
Oh, yes, she's now live. You can unmute yourself and speak, or just briefly ask your question. We can't hear you, Ugumba.
I have muted. Still, you cannot hear me.
Now we
Yeah,
can
now
hear
it's
you.
okay.
Very good.
Okay then. Yeah, my name is Dr. Ugumba Kwikima from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. My question is how is the junior researcher from Africa get a host institution in Europe? Is there any guidance or assistance through EURAXESS to navigate this process? Yeah, that's my question. Thank you so much for this opportunity of asking a question. Thank you.
Ahmed, can you respond to this?
Yeah,
okay.
Both of us, we can do that. Please go ahead.
I mean, I was, as I was mentioning during my presentation, EURAXESS website has a section dedicated for searching for hosts, both professors, researchers in Europe, member states or in associated countries, as well as institutes, legal entities in Europe, maybe universities or research institutions. You can find actually in our portal. There are more than 500,000 registered institutions that you can communicate with them. But as one of the participants already asked, this is not really easy. They may not respond to your email, to your request. So I think, as also mentioned, you better use already existing network in Europe or maybe in associated countries that you meet through collaborative research or through workshops, person you know, through publications. There are many options that you can meet researchers in your area in Europe that you can collaborate and host you during your ERC research period, right? So there are many options, but EURAXESS, of course, can help you in searching for a host institute and collaborator in Europe and associated countries. The same thing,
Thank you so
can
much.
also find a partner institute from EU funding and the tender portal as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, I would add to this. It's
Yane,
it's
please.
really
Yes.
really useful to have any networks that you have. So when if you meet European researchers in conferences, talk to them, say, okay, I'm actually thinking of applying for an ERC grant. I'm looking for a place to host that in Europe. And if you have, of a group that is in a place where you know that the environment will be beneficial for your grant. We are not evaluating the host institutions, but you want to be in a place where you know that you can also find good students, etc. So you want to find a place that is a good place for you to be. So talk to those people, and if they are interested in your work, and you say that you are planning an ERC application, and do you think your university would be interested in hosting the application, and so on. So it's really building on your own network that helps you to find good places. Conferences are important.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. I want to add something for this because when you use EURAXESS Africa portal, you have these options. It's nice options, jobs and opportunities. When we click on, you will see. Of course, I advise you to create your account for free. It's free, so you can create your account, and after that, you can add all informations about you, your CV. But look in these options. We have. If you are looking for organizations and universities, this option. If you are looking to meet some researchers and entrepreneurs, it's okay. We have this possibility. If you are looking for jobs, funding, and hosting, of course, you can do that. And look for the number actually in the EURAXESS portal. It's more than 9,000 job positions already there. So I advise you to create your account for free. Just tap EURAXESS, and after that, you will be able to connect with organizations, with researchers, with innovators from the world. So this is my also from EURAXESS portal.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank
I take, if that's fine, I
Thank
take
you,
a
Ahmed.
question
Maybe,
from the Q&A.
Yeah.
There's somebody asking,
yeah.
is it necessary to be a professor in certain capacity to apply? And no, that's exactly the thing. You just need to agree with the host institution that they accept to recruit for you for the duration of the grant. And in many places, it's actually a shortcut to get a tenure track position or something. But when you arrive, the only commitment from the host institution is to recruit you for the duration of the grant. You don't need to already be there. You don't need to have any position. They agree to give you a post if you get your grant.
Yeah, there is one question, very important question, I would say. C asks in the Q&A session, she asked if in the synergy grant, and if we, a South African university, co-apply with an EU institution, is it possible to spend the majority of money in South Africa since the research will be conducted here in South Africa? And is it possible that we are the PI and the EU institution is a co-applicant?
This is
a question
in synergy, there are no co-applicants. All the principal investigators have the same status. There's only an administrative role which is called a corresponding PI, who will be the sort of administrative contact point towards us. But all the PIs are all the 2, 3, or 4 principal investigators are at the same level from our side. Now, can majority of the money be spent in Africa? There's no rule against that, but you need to make sure that all teams. So you could have one team in Europe, one team in Africa. You can say, okay, you can say that both of them have certain core funding, and then you have lots of money for field work in Africa. So then it's fine. But if you just create a project where you have 1 million in Europe, 9 million in Africa, then there's a question: is this really a synergy of 2 PIs of the same weight, or is this just a sort of arrangement? So make sure that all the principal investigators have a meaningful scientific role as team leaders in the synergy, and then you can be flexible with how to assign the money. But if it looks like somebody's there just as a token, then it doesn't. It's probably not surviving the synergy evaluation. But we don't have a rule of what percentage of the money can be spent in Europe or outside Europe. There's no rule on that.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Maybe we have only 3 live questions. Can we go quickly with the live question and close this session?
Yes.
Yeah, Dr.
Yes.
Makonnen. Dr. Makonnen, please, very quick. Unmute yourself first and quickly present your question. Dr. Makonnen.
If not, we can move.
Okay, if it is by mistake, let's go to... yes, Mulu Brahan. Mulu Brahan,
Okay.
you raised your hand. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So I think my question is...
we can hear you.
Yeah, the question is related with the research team in starting grant, because in the previously it was one of the presenters said that you have to be focused on the research team because it is an individual researcher application. So this how can be, for instance, if we have multi-center collaborating hospitals. So from that center you could have something a coordinating. So that should be part of the research team. So how this can be treated? As we know, the starting grant is an individual researcher based, but it needs, for instance, in the clinical setting, you may need of multiple hospitals. So from each hospital, you may need of the leader there, or we can say local PI or local coordinating. So how we can treat this one? And the second maybe is
Prince.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's,
quickly go
yeah.
through the second question.
Okay, yeah. That's, in fact, I put in the question and answer, but in the starting grant, there is an 1 million of additional budget or cost. So is this for equipment or can also be used for recruiting of research staff? Thank you.
Prince, can you go first?
Yes, I'll attempt to answer your first question about collaboration in terms of the team. Yes, it is possible. I would say yes, it is possible to have different collaborators on your starting grant. But as I said earlier, these collaborators should work on work packages that you, the main PI, absolutely have no scientific expertise to do. There should not be any duplication of expertise. So, for example, if you need to do some clinical trials or sample collections, you must demonstrate that you need an external other collaborators to do this. And why? It's because you do not have the expertise to be able to, scientific expertise to be able to do that. Else it would just be duplication of expertise. So yes, it is possible, but please limit the number of collaborations that you put on your starting grant, because the starting grant, again, I would say, is an individual grant, and you must demonstrate that if your collaborators fail in doing their part, you'll be able to still succeed in achieving your starting grant project goals. That is the main objective. Because if you have different collaborators and your work is linked, the success of your work is linked to their success, it means if they fail, your starting grant also fails. And you should avoid that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prince. Maybe Yannick.
Yep,
reflect
definitely.
on the
So
additional
you
1
are,
million budget.
so you are definitely the leader of your project, and you should not appear as one of 3 or 4 scientists doing this together. It's your project. You can, of course, collaborate, but you need to be sort of a driving seat of that collaboration. And you can bring, like Prince said, you can bring somebody over the hospital who does a certain part of work, bring some expertise, but it's still your project, and you can. Of course, you have your own team, so you lead your own students and your own PhD students or postdocs. They can visit the other institution. They can spend time there and all that. But just make sure that you are really in the driving seat. As soon as it looks like you are in the passenger seat and somebody else is driving, it's not going to fly. You are on the driving seat.
Thank you.
There was another question. What was the?
There is no live question. I can see we are very happy that we all entertained, but there are many.
There's a question.
Q&A,
There's a question
but
that
I think
is
we are.
interesting. That if an applicant is rejected, can he apply the next round? I know that for the ERC starting grants, I'm sure it's the same for consolidator or advanced. You are given ranks. So depending on the ranking of your proposal, you might be either suspended for 1 year or not.
Or 2 years.
Or 2 years. So for example, if you apply to, this year and you don't put a lot of dedication, a lot of time to write a very good proposal, and you get a C grade, it means that you might not be able to apply again for the next 2 years. So that is why you need to take time, special time, to be able to develop a well-written proposal.
Thank you, Prince. This is a really very important question to answer. Yeah.
Okay.
Ahmed, now I think you can close it.
I think we come to the end, and we can say the last word. We can start by Yanni. Yanni, the last word by you.
I don't really have much to add here. We are super happy to get your applications, but it comes with the sort of thing linked to what Prince just said, which is that make sure that you are ready when you apply, because we introduced these resubmission restrictions when the numbers started going very high, and it was sort of putting strain on our evaluation. So the whole idea is that we want everybody to not to just try once to see how it goes. When you try, you've really done your homework first. You've done all the painful literature search, preparation, discussion with the host. You have really done the whole package, and you know that you're ready to go with this, and then you apply. Just to be sure that you don't get penalized for 2 years resubmission restriction because you just thought, okay, I don't really have time, but I'll try something, and that's not going to fly.
Of course. Okay, thanks a lot, Prince.
Yes, I think Jan has said everything, but I would also say that if you want to apply for any of the ERC grants, I mean, the thought of it alone, it's really good. Because a lot of people, when I was applying, a lot of my colleagues told me it's a waste of time because it's really competitive. And my answer was, if you don't apply, then you don't have a chance at all. So at least try to apply, and then your chances can increase to 0.0001. But if you don't apply, it's 0. So the thought of it alone of applying, it's really good. So
Totally
just keep cool, put a lot of time into your writing. Try to have an iterative proposal, not a linear proposal, such that your work packages are done in iterative mode. One work package can learn from the failures of the other work package, or the other work package can learn from the success of the other work packages. So don't make your proposal linear, make your proposal iterative, and then just go for it.
Thanks a lot, Prince. My dear colleague, Pana.
Yeah, I'm really very impressed today. We had a very dedicated, a very impressive presentation we had from Yanni and Prince. I hope all the participants enjoyed, and that was very, very helpful, very grateful for that. So I think we have more than 100 questions and Q&A. We cannot really respond to each of these questions. So I think you can reach us via our email, and I and Ahmed will try our best to respond to your inquiries, and keep in touch. Subscribe to EURAXESS Africa, and also well prepared, as you suggested by today's panelists, and give it a try. Give it a try, and we wish you a good luck for that, and keep in touch also with EURAXESS Africa for other webinars and for other important informations from Horizon Europe.
Nice,
Thank
nice,
you,
Pana.
Ahmed.
So time for me to come to the end. So thank you for you all for joining this us today. It was a real pleasure to host this webinar in collaboration with the European Research Council and, of course, EURAXESS Africa. And to see such strong interest from the researchers across Africa, we have more than 2,000 registered participants. And today we have more than 500-600 online join us today. Special thanks to our speakers for their time and expertise, and to all participants for your active engagement and truthful questions. Let's continue building bridges between Africa and Europe through research, innovation, and collaboration. And we can say bye-bye.
See you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.